Hey everybody, welcome to the pop culture news here on The Experience. We've got a ton of news today, lots of really cool things happening, so let's jump right in. Now we're going to start with the big news over the weekend was DC is going to do a Clayface movie. This was officially green lit by DC Studios and is set to release September 11th, 2026. Now the movie is being written by Mike Flanagan, known for his work in the horror genre with such films as Oculus, Hush, Doctor Sleep. And the film is said to have a horror thriller tragedy approach. Now, something Flanagan has talked about, he's wanted to do this since all the way back in 2021, where he posted on social media his desire to do this. Now, the interesting thing is it's being produced by Matt Reeves, director of the Batman, and Lynn Harris, Reeves' producing partner who worked on King Richard. And though the film is being produced by them, it's actually set to take place in the DCU, not the BECS or the Batman Epic Crime Saga that Reeves is doing. So it's kind of interesting. But then again, they had also were supposed to executive produce the Arkham Asylum series, which was going to be in the DCU, not the Batman Epic Crime Saga. So now, specific plot details are still under wraps. It's expected that the movie will explore Clayface's character in kind of a more nuanced way, portraying him not as just a villain, but as a tragic figure. Production is expected to begin early 2025. Now, the interesting thing is, though, that means it's going to come out 1 month before the Batman Part 2, if that still ends up on track. So it wouldn't surprise me if they bump it back maybe a couple months at least, which would make sense because the first movie came out around October and the first movie takes place around October. The second one is supposed to take place in December near Christmas, so releasing it then would also make a lot of sense. All right, moving on. It has been rumored since 2021 that Marvel Studios has been trying to work with Chris Evans to find a way to bring him back to the MCU. And those rumors often included Haley Atwell, kind of maybe focusing on that time period where Cap goes back to return the stones and ends up living out his life with Peggy Carter. Well, the thing is that now with the upcoming Doomsday and the multiverse thing, and Anthony and Joe Russo returning to the franchise, Evans has said to be returning, and now Deadline is reporting that Atwell will also be back. Plot details are unknown at this time, and the film will bow in theaters on May 1st of 2026. But since Avengers Endgame, Atwell has played variant versions of Agent Carter, one who received the super soldier serum instead of Rogers, and has appeared in the animated What If series as well as Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, with Doomsday expected to be a multiversal film, it's unclear which version of Agent Carter we'll get, or exactly what the version of Chris Evans will get. So that's going to be interesting to see. I look forward to seeing them both back in the MCU. Going back to talking about Matt Reeves, there's been some conflicting reports about the script for the Batman 2. Now, Matt Reeves has said back in September that the script was almost finished and production was set to begin at the new year. However, James Gunn just recently said that he has not seen the first draft of the script yet. Now, it seems like there might be some delays and creative differences causing confusion, but the movie is scheduled to be released October 2nd of 2026. Now, the statement from Gunn came in response to a fan asking for clarification on the rumor that Clayface and Scarecrow would be in the Batman sequel. And to it, Reeves responded saying, well, that's not possible because we haven't seen the script yet. So the fact that Reeves is producing the Clayface film, and also Clayface was one of the characters they put into the Batman Caped Crusader animated series, which Reeves is produced, shows signs that Reeves really likes Clayface. But at this point, we're not sure what's going on with the script. Now, it's likely two things are there. Reeves is probably close to having the script done, but isn't quite there yet. And so Gunn hasn't seen it, but when Reeves stated he was close to finishing it, he probably still is. All right, moving on. One of the most popular sitcoms of the 2000s is going to come back in a limited way. Disney Plus is bringing back Malcolm in the Middle for a 4-episode run and stars Frankie Muniz, Bryan Cranston, and Jane Kaczmarek are all expected to return. They're all on board. Now, the original series focused on young genius Malcolm trying to navigate life with a quirky, difficult family. Now, the new story will involve Malcolm and his daughter and his wife returning home for his parents' 40th wedding anniversary. As for the rest of the family, though, it's expected that they'll reach out to Christopher Kennedy Masterson and Justin Burfield to reprise their roles as Reese and Francis. But Eric Purse Sullivan, who played Dewey, is going to be a little more tricky because he's actually retired from acting and hasn't participated in any of the Malcolm reunions that have been going on since 2010. Now, series creator Linwood Boomer will be writing the 4 episodes, and the show's producing director, Ken Kwapis, is coming back to helm all 4 episodes. So now, I don't know how much you guys know about Malcolm Middle, but it ran for 7 seasons, 151 episodes, and in that time, it received 7 Emmy Awards, a Peabody Award, and a Grammy. That's pretty good for a TV series. Speaking of TV series, Sarah Michelle Gellar is changing her tunes about the idea of continuing the Buffy universe. As recently as a year ago, the actress was against the idea, saying, "I'm very proud of the show that we created, and a revival doesn't need to be done." Or at least she wouldn't want to be part of it. She said, "I love the way the show was left. Every girl who has the power can have the power. It's set up perfectly for someone else to have the power. But like I said, the metaphors of Buffy were the horrors of adolescence. I think I look young, but I'm not an adolescent." But now that Gellar has joined the cast of Dexter's Original Sin, she sees things a little differently. She says, "It's funny. I always used to say no because it's in its bubble and it's so perfect. But watching Sex in the City and seeing Dexter and realizing that there are ways to do it definitely does get your mind thinking, well, maybe." Though Gellar didn't think a new Buffy would need a prequel series in order to come back, saying, "No, it could be anything. It's a universe, and it makes you realize that in this world, we need those heroes. I think more so than ever." Now, if they're looking for inspiration, there are some interesting Buffy comics out there that were relatively new that move the character forward to where Buffy and Spike are training the next Slayer, who just happens to be Willow's daughter. That could be a fun series to bring to life, don't you? Don't you think? All right. Over the weekend, Marvel shared a new 1-minute look at Captain America Brave New World. And while most of the footage was stuff we'd seen before, we kind of got a better look at Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres in his version of the Falcon suit. Now, this is the same wingsuit that Sam Wilson or Anthony Mackie left him at the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all the way back in 2021. Now, this has been expected since Torres was introduced as a character because Torres exists in the comics, and he does become the second Falcon, though his origins, they're very different. In the comics, Torres is an immigrant, kidnapped and experimented on by Carl Malice. I believe he was called the Power Broker, turning him into a human Falcon hybrid, and he is rescued by Captain America, or Sam Wilson as Captain America. Now, there's some weird stuff there, too, including how the Falcon he used, Red Wing, was actually partly vampiric, which then gives Torres this kind of regenerative factor. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that part of it. I think they're just going to let him have Sam's old wingsuit and call it a day. It's probably for the best. All right, this was a fun casting news I just saw. Deadline is reporting that Universal is putting together a movie based on the popular 80s TV series Murder, She Wrote. And they're looking at, for the lead role of Jessica Fletcher, the character who was, of course, brought to life by the great Angela Lansbury. The studio, they have their top choice is Jamie Lee Curtis. I think that is awesome. Now, the character itself was an original creation, but when you look at Jessica Fletcher, she's very similar to one of Agatha Christie's celebrated sleuths, Miss Jane Marple. See, both of them live in these small towns, Fletcher in Cabot Cove and Marple in St. Mary Mead, and both play amateur detective and make the local police look like kind of bumbling idiots as they are able to solve the crimes that the professionals can't. But also, you got to look at the fact that these old ladies are around so many murders. At some point, you'd have to think they've got to be a suspect, right? I mean, people are dropping dead around them like crazy. You got to look at them and go, maybe. All right. And then the final big news story, of course, was James Gunn has released a new motion poster. I guess what they call it, a motion poster. And this is to start the promotional campaign for the upcoming Superman movie. Now, the new image is David Corenswet's Superman flying up into what looked to be like the Aurora Borealis. And the motion poster has lines moving past him and includes a stirring version of John Williams' iconic Superman theme for the Man of Steel. So it's really nice looking, and it kind of gets that right feel. Of course, the film itself is going to debut on in theaters on July 11th, 2025, but we're going to get to see the first teaser trailer this Thursday, and it's going to drop at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you're up that early, look to the internet, follow James Gunn, look to YouTube, wherever you go for that kind of stuff. And we'll get our first look at David Corenswet in action as Clark Kent / Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, along with a plethora of other actors in the cast. It's going to be a big cast. But yeah, that'll be Thursday. So, all right, guys, that's the news. Remember to stick around today. Not only do we have Minute to Skim It and Kicking It with Henri, but we have a special show coming up. It's going to be from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. And it doesn't really have a title because it's a one-off thing. But basically, it's a sales show that is going to help raise money for Monarch Comics in Ohio, which recently had a fire, and a lot of damage was caused by the fire. This is the shop that my former Pop Go the Writers co-host Jim Beard frequents, and he was over there helping them and was saying how they had to go through every box, even the stuff the fire didn't get to, because the fire department went in and was so thorough to making sure the fire was out that there's water everywhere. And some of the books were saved. Some of them were just garbage. You had to throw them out. They were so badly damaged. And something like that can devastate a retailer. I remember Atomic Comics in Arizona. One of the things that pushed them towards closing was when a drunk driver drove into the front of the store and it triggered the sprinkler system. And it destroyed one of their locations, and it basically had a chain reaction, and eventually the whole line of stores ended up going out of business over time. So something like that can really hurt a comic shop, and there aren't that many anymore. Every one of them is servicing their community, and if you are a comic collector, you need those places to get your books, to get your stuff. So maybe if you got a chance between 8 and 10 Eastern, you can come on, find yourself a book. There's a couple paintings, some really good stuff is going to be on sale. So please tune in for the Monarch Comics charity auction, assistance sale. There we go. And hope you all have a good day. And I will see you on Thursday, where I'm going to do a deep dive into Clayface, which just sounds funny when you say it that way. But I'm going to break down all 8 people who have been Clayface, how I think this is going to affect the DCU and everything else. It's going to be a big Clayface episode. So tune in Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern for that. I will see you all later. Have a great day.